Post-privatization, Nigeria's power sector is largely rated as an underperformer. Now, what would revisiting current privatization strategies entail? George Etomi, director of the Eko Electricity Distribution Company, now joins me to assess the growth of Nigeria's power sector in the past 4 years and to discuss its prospects going forward. George, glad to have you on the show this morning.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
So we're taking multiple steps back. Happy Easter and welcome back from the holidays. We're taking multiple steps back now to assess Nigeria's power sector post-privatization. We say officially it's about 5 years post-privatization, but we started early talks as far back as 2013. Latest on the sector being recent talks by the federal government and the World Bank on a $1 billion power sector loan. Let's start from the current and then we go back to the past. Is that fine by you?
Fine.
So is a loan the solution to the mirage of problems troubling Nigeria's power sector? We're talking another $1 billion now.
Certainly not. If you want to deal with the sector in a holistic manner, when you isolate members of the value chain and then you take some money and throw at them, it's not going to solve it. You need to look at the entire spectrum and then deal with the matters from the fundamental issues. And what are these fundamental issues? One is the price structure. The pricing is wrong. It's an over-regulated industry. It's been privatized. And at the inception, it was agreed that there would be what is described as cost-reflective tariffs. In other words, the product that you are selling and what you expect to receive should match. But we have a regulated industry in which actually the cost of the product is actually less than what we're able to receive. So the first thing that hits the entire value chain, and don't forget, is the discos that collect all the money that will service the entire value chain. So first of all, there's a problem with how much you can collect, barring inefficiencies and stuff. And then what you can then send down the entire value chain. So the crisis in the entire industry is that of liquidity.
And that's so we are looking at a sector that is known for being largely illiquid at the moment.
Absolutely. And that's
so maybe now
yes,
the loan could be one step to solving the problem?
The problem with the loan is that this is not the first time we're getting loans. Don't forget the almost 700 billion intervention funds on the side of the discos. What I understand, this might be on the side of on the Gencos, this might be on the side of the discos. That's not really what you're looking for. You are simply looking for investor assurance that for an industry that has been privatized, you would allow market forces determine prices. Because the money that's required for power is not in this country. It is humongous amounts of money. It can only come from investors who have deep pockets, but who, most importantly, are assured that the elements, the atmosphere, the environment for investment is right, devoid of interference, in which sanctity of contracts is respected. We saw it in telecoms. If you continue to interfere the way we do, it's almost as if it's firefighting. You must deal with it. Everybody involved in industry know that the problem is one of liquidity.
So you've cited liquidity now, you've cited interference. Now looking at justification for loans gotten in previous years, we do know that the number of idle plants were reported to have gone up from 7 to 15 most recently, and then power dropped from, I think, 3,456 megawatts in February to 3,450 megawatts in February 2019, and we're still looking at improving those. So what would you say would be the way forward when we begin to entertain talks, as we are now, about revisiting the privatization structure of Nigeria's power sector?
In fact, it's good you mentioned it. Only a few days ago, it actually dropped to about 1,700. Why is that so? This value chain I'm talking about actually starts from gas, because most of our power supply comes from our thermal plants, and their feedstock is gas. You know, we have issues with gas pricing as well. And so the investment that is required to boost gas supply is not there. If you speak to members of the gas producers, they too are wailing. So their price of gas is also pegged. That's what they are forced to sell to the Gencos, to the NBET. embed through the Gencos, and then down to us. So you have a depressed price at the point gas is produced. And then at the point you then supply to the customer, you have another price interference. So it is leading to...
It's all systemic.
It's all systemic.
Now, you've described the Gencos as well as the Discos as victims of an illiquid value chain, to summarize all that you have said. Now, at the surface level, to the consumers, it does look like there is an unending brick-bat between the Gencos and the Discos. So help us understand the dynamics of the workings of these two.
There will naturally be that when you are dealing with, when you are trying to share poverty, that's what I call it. You have an illiquid sector. The Discos collect the money. The Discos are allowed to make certain deductions, cost of operations and a number of things, and then send the balance of the value chain. They are unable to send enough to meet with the Gencos costs. The Gencos costs naturally turn around to say, oh, the Discos are shortchanging us, or let's find other ways of doing it.
Definitely.
So this is what's causing
Discos do look like the bad boys.
Yes,
of the
because you are the last mile, understandably, and you're the one who interfaces with the consumers. And by the way, you're not very popular with the consumers either.
No, you're not.
Because they too also feel, you're collecting money from me, I'm not seeing the service. No meters, estimated bills, and all that. So the Discos just find themselves in this very awkward situation. And that's why I said, to deal with it, you need to go to the fundamentals. Just let market forces deal with these issues.
Fundamentals and market forces sound very abstract when you say it like that. So what's the way out?
They're not abstract. If you look at telecoms, that's why I don't want us to run away from successful privatizations. We've seen that in the banking sector. We've seen that in telecoms. Remember, when telecoms initially started, and the regulator allowed market forces to determine prices, the cost of SIM card, the cost of your phones and co were like skyrocket high. But he didn't. He was not tempted to interfere. He stayed back. And what that simply did was that investors who had the deep pockets came in. With them came competition. And with competition, prices started crashing. This is not going to be different with power. The truth is there's so much affecting power today. There are renewables. The power market is dynamic. It's moving forward. Electricity is going to be the world of the future that we're going to. So we need to allow the investments that can sustain growth to come in. If we begin to have these knee-jerk responses when there are issues, you will simply, it's a deterrent to investment. You look at it, it's no different from a market woman wants to go and buy her wares. If she farms a product for 50 naira and is then forced by regulation to sell it for 30 naira, she's not going to be in that business for too long if somebody's not going to tell her where she gets the difference.
And that's what this do?
And this is what the problem is. At the point of privatization, there were a number of obligations on the part of the government. You will allow for cost-reflective tariffs. You will pay your debts. By the way, they're some of the biggest debtors that we have around. You will ensure that the MITO, that's the multi-year tariff order, is reviewed. The last time it was reviewed was years ago. We should have, by now, 2 major reviews and so many minor reviews. The last review that was done has not been implemented. For example, the cost of your electricity is calculated in the MITO at about $1.90.
So
can you get $1.90 anywhere for today? It's $3.60 at best, but that's what's in your MITO. So it's unrealistic.
Succinctly put by you now, if I get you right, the core ingredient of a working privatized power sector would be the regulator backing off and letting market forces play out naturally.
Naturally. And of course, I'm not saying backing off in the sense that just allow a free willing, no.
That's what happens with the telcos.
Don't
largely
interfere with the market forces, but still regulate so that at least you curb bad habits. The regulations should stimulate growth, not impede it. And what you're seeing today, and now there's a recent announcement, they're thinking about franchising, getting the Discos to agree for certain of the areas to be franchised. These are always around the tariff issue. Nobody wants to come frontally to say, oh, tariff is going to increase because there's a political price to pay and all that. But the truth is many Nigerians who self-generate today will tell you that they're willing to pay the right price for electricity if they see it.
Right price. George, Thank you
It's
for
a
your time and
condition.
thought on the show this
You're
morning.
welcome.
This will definitely be a continuing conversation. We keep hearing the right price and then provision of power, and then let's see if that will be the way forward. Thank you for your time on the show this morning.
My pleasure.
George Etomi is the director of the Eko Electricity Distribution Company.